Next speaker is someone who believes that career success should not come at the cost of your values, your well being, or your sense of purpose, because too many women are following career paths that they never intentionally choose. They're saying yes to opportunities that no longer align, navigating change without support, or trying to succeed within systems that were not designed with us in mind. Natasha VanWright is an executive coach, national speaker, senior healthcare executive. She's the founder and CEO of Natasha VanWright Coaching, where she helps women align their values with their decisions, lead through change with resilience, and build careers that are meaningful, sustainable, and authentic. With more than 25 years of experience in operations and strategy and leadership development across complex healthcare systems, Natasha has built a reputation for helping professionals lead with clarity, with courage, and intention. What makes her perspective especially powerful is that she has personally risen through corporate ranks while challenging traditional models of leadership and career progression. Her work is grounded in the belief that women don't have to lose themselves in order to succeed. Beyond her coaching and executive leadership work, Natasha is a passionate advocate for equity and leadership diversity. She serves on the board of Community Healthcare Network and she supports federally qualified health centers across New York City, and she's actively involved in organizations like the National Black MBA Association, Chief, Westchester Women's Agenda, and Women Business Leaders. Natasha is also a sought after national speaker on leadership, career growth, and healthcare innovation. She holds an MBA from the Cornell SC Johnson College of Business. She has a Master of Science in Healthcare Leadership from Weill Cornell Graduate School and a Master of Arts in Nursing Education from Pace University. Her session today is Own Your Path, Values, Resilience, and Career Intention. Natasha will share with us some practical and inspiring frameworks for navigating career growth with greater clarity, with resilience and purpose. You're going to learn how to lead from your values, make intentional decisions about what comes next, and create paths that reflect who you truly are, not just what others expect from you. If you have ever felt that pressure to follow someone else's definition of success, then this session is for you. Please join me in welcoming Natasha VanWright to the summit stage.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here to be able to talk about owning your path. So, this is a concept that I have been wrestling with for the last few years and think I pretty much nailed down a nice framework for you to be able to make sure that you are living and you have a career that is dedicated and designed with intention. It is possible to have a career and a life that is intentionally designed. Sometimes the hardest question is not, can I do this? But rather, do I still want this? Or is this still me? And it's okay for you to be able to have those questions. This summit is a completely safe space. Our lives don't always unfold in a very straight line. There are a lot of twists and there are turns. And as we gain experience and start to learn more fully who we are, we just have to adapt. We have to redesign. We have to think about, are we really living with intention? Is this really the life that you want? And our careers are no exception. We are often taught that we need to be able to focus on the next title, the next milestone. And while there is nothing wrong with being ambitious, there does come a point when you have to ask yourself some really deep questions and be very honest with yourself. Am I building the career that actually reflects who I am and how I want to live? Or am I building what someone else expects of me? Am I dialing it in? Have I set myself to default mode? It's hard to be able to ask these questions and to take the time out to stop and reflect, but this is essential if you want to have a sustainable career that's going to be aligned with who you are. Even deeper beyond those few questions is the question, do I really believe that I can craft my own career with intention? Giving the societal norms, family expectations, current economics, and the uncertainty of the job market, oftentimes we can just accept and go with the flow rather than using our own agency and creating a path forward that is specific to us, our authentic selves. And that's what this talk is going to be about. Owning your path is about making choices from a very grounded place. It's about knowing your values, building resilience, setting very clear intentions, and then having the courage to be able to shape a path that's meaningful and sustainable to you, not to someone else, not to your parents, your friends, your supervisors, the people who say that you should and could, but to you. This message is very personal for me because there was a point in my life where I looked very successful on the outside, and yet deep down, I was starting to question if this was truly the life that I wanted. During the pandemic, I took a leave. There were a lot of family issues. My mother-in-law got very sick. Work was very stressful. And when it was time for me to come back to work, I found myself sitting with this question that I just kept hearing over and over again. Do I really want this life that I created? And I surmise that a lot of people had a lot of opportunities for self-reflection around the same time. I really use this as an opportunity to change the course of my life. That question was hard for me because I had worked so hard to just move up the ladder. I was on the career ramp with more and more senior leadership responsibilities, managing a larger team, making a bigger paycheck, and living what looked like the full picture of success. I'm talking the loving spouse, the two kids, the house, the dog, and yes, even the white fence. But the reality for me felt very different. I was working really long hours. I was sitting in meetings all day. I am a creative, so that was very tough for me. I was traveling a lot more than I wanted, even though I wanted to be grounded with my family. I felt out of sorts with my own life. And that was a moment that I had to be really honest with myself. I was not just thinking about whether I could keep doing this because that was my default. You could just find a way, and if you can just adjust your schedule. I started to think about, do you even want to still do this? What that season forced me to see was that success without alignment came at a really high cost. The cost wasn't just work, it was my family, it was my health, and it was my legacy. It made me realize that I needed to find a different way to think about career growth and how that growth would align with my personal truth and values. I needed a way to reconnect with what mattered to me, rebuild from a more grounded place, and make decisions that not just reflected my values at that moment, but made space for who I was becoming. So today, I want to share a simple 4-step framework that grew out of that experience. It helped me, and I'm hoping that it can help you as well. So, this framework is pretty simple. It's knowing your values, actually taking the time to think about it. It's simple in words, a little bit harder in action. Building your resilience, defining your intentions, and then using those three things to own your path. It's no one else's path but yours. At the end of the day, you will have lived this journey, you will have walked this path. People may go along with you, but at the end of the day, you're dealing with it every day. So the first step is to know your values. Your values are an internal compass. I know I used to sit and hear people talk about your values all the time, and it was this very abstract thing. But in reality, it's not. Your values are your internal compass. They help you to make decisions when the path ahead might be unclear, when opportunities might look really good on paper, but something in your stomach just says, like, that's not a right opportunity. It's because it's coming up against your values. It's when you're being forced to choose between what's expected and what's really aligned with who you are. Values are very practical, and you can know that you're working out of your values when you think about what gives you energy, what makes you feel proud. But then, on the contrary, what makes you feel tension or feel that sickness or that sense of doom? Your values will define what you will and will not tolerate. That's including the work hours that I was talking about, or the amount of travel, or the environment that you're working in. These values often reveal themselves in those moments where you're up against either aligning with your values, so you're feeling good about alignment, or when you're going against your values and you just feel it in your bones. When you live outside of your values, the cost is not always immediately visible. So it's kind of like that adage of the frog inside the hot pot, where, if you just put a frog inside a hot pot, or boiling water, it'll try to jump out. It's not like that with your values. Typically, it's the frog sitting in the water, and slowly the temperature of the water goes up, and it's boiling and boiling and boiling. And now we know what happens to the frog. So that's what it's like a little erosion each time when you're going against the grain of your values. You can still perform, you can still look successful, but something just starts chipping away little by little. Your energy drops, your motivation goes down. You may get a little bit resentful. You begin to feel like a stranger in your own life because you just had all of these courses and lines and journeys that you've gone through that take you away from who you really are. So I'm going to geek out a little bit. Psychologists call this incongruence or value behavior discrepancy. So, in simple terms, it's that gap that happens when what you believe matters to you doesn't align with how you're actually living. And research shows that when this gap gets bigger, so does your level of distress. We start to feel more negative emotions, right? Important to be able to acknowledge that it's not just something that you feel. This is a scientific thing, and it doesn't just happen to you. It's happened to a lot of people. So I encourage people to ask themselves, when have I felt most like myself at work? When have I felt most drained or disconnected? What type of environment brings out your best thinking, your best self, your deepest sense of purpose? Those questions are important because they move values out of this abstract place into something that's real life. And the clearer you are about those values, the easier it becomes to evaluate opportunities. It's easier to set your boundaries and know what you will and will not do. And it's easier for you to recognize misalignment. So here's how to do it. Make a list of things that are important to you, right? I'll use my example. Family time is very important to me. I value family time. Think about how what you're currently doing aligns with that value. So if I say that I value family time, how much time am I spending with my family? What type of boundaries do I put up around family time? So if I'm constantly traveling or I am constantly putting family time on the calendar and erasing it or deleting it, then I'm now misaligned with my value. So when you're thinking about your value and you're able to pinpoint family time or whatever your example might be, you want to now look at your actions and see how those actions are aligning. This work is not a one-time thing. It requires regular reflection. You have to keep asking yourself whether your actions match what you say matters the most. Are you consistently living in that value? The second step is to build your resilience. Resilience is not a bad word. Sometimes we'll say, oh, he or she is so resilient, or, we're saying it out of pity, or we're saying it as if that person is weak. It's not. Resilience is not a bad word. Resilience is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean that you're pretending that hard things don't impact you. No one was meant to be made of stone. It's when we start to put on these armors and this facade that we can't live our true selves because we're so busy trying to live up to whatever else that someone said we should be, or to live up to this image of ourselves that we have created. Real resilience is the ability to be able to recover and adapt. It's the ability to be able to stay connected to yourself, even when you're in situations of stress or disappointment or uncertainty. It's the capacity to be able to stay steady enough that you're able to respond in a way that's still authentically you when you're challenged. So resilience matters because I don't know what role you will ever have in your career that doesn't have a setback or disappointment. Resilience will help you to be able to take that hard season and then shift it to something that can help you grow. So, a few questions to have you think about your resilience and to build it is to think about a time where you struggled, right? Where you had to be able to adapt. What helped you stay grounded? How did you respond? Were you happy with the response? Were you upset with the response? What did you do? And how can you do it better? What outcome would you have liked to see? What support systems did you need to have in place to be successful? Right? So this is about planning for the next setback because we know that setback will come. When we think about support systems, oftentimes folks will go to family or friends or mentor, but there are more support systems than that. Sometimes they're very practical. Sometimes a support system is making sure that you have housekeeping services if you can afford it, or giving kids those chores or whatever it is that needs to happen so that you're not trying to burn the candle on multiple ends. It might also be that you have someone who's a thought partner for you, who allows you to be able to brainstorm and to think about how you might be able to do things in a very different way instead of being stuck inside a pattern. So think about what you need in order to be sustainable in your current career with the current choices that you've chosen, and then continue to grow that and continue to keep those things in place. Don't allow a situation to occur. You put support systems in place and then you let those support systems fall to the wayside because you'll need them again, right? The third step is to define your intention. You don't need to have every single step figured out. I am guilty of that, wanting to have everything laid out nice and neat. That's not how the world works. Intention gives direction, not just to your day to day, but also to your ambition, right? You can be as ambitious as you like to, but do it in an intentional way. Otherwise, your ambition will be so impacted by others that you might reach someone else's dream, but never reach your own. Without intention, it's very easy for you to build a career by default. People will tell you you should take this role to get to the next level, or meet that person, or transition into something you don't really like so that you can get further ahead. That's not always the case. And if it's not aligned with your values, it's not a place for you to be. Without intention, you will say yes just because opportunities are available. You will move because it's just expected that you will move. You're just going to keep on going because you seem to be successful from the outside. And before long, you're going to realize that you've been highly productive, which is great, right? But not necessarily aligned, which is not. There is a way to be able to have both, and intention interrupts that pattern. So ask yourself a different set of questions. What kind of life am I trying to build? Right? So oftentimes we're pretty good at that part. What kind of work helps me grow? It gets to be a little bit harder when you start to think about what does that like look like and how does that feel? Because now it'll start to bring in your values and it'll bring in those boundaries and give you more color as to what you want your life to really look like. Hence, what do you want your career to really look like? Think about what you're saying yes to by default instead of design. These type of questions will help you make that shift and help you to get the clarity that you need to be able to make decisions on purpose rather than by default or by other people. That may mean choosing a role because it supports the life that you want in this season. Doesn't always have to be permanent, but it's for now. Or saying no to something that no longer fits you. What may be even scarier is that it may mean that defining success is different now. You may no longer have the same definition, and that's okay. And while that's scary, it's very powerful because once you stop waiting for perfect certainty, you can start to build a path that's going to reflect you. So take some time and write out your intentions. When people are asking you to do things or an opportunity comes before you, pause before automatically saying yes. Get clear on what you want and why you want it. Define what success looks like, not just for the job, not just for the paycheck or the title, whole life success. And how does that position fit into what it is that you want to do? And now make choices that support that life. Say no to those that don't. Focus on the next step. I know that as leaders and as women, we've been conditioned to want to think so far down the line, but I encourage you to think about the next step because we can get so busy thinking so far down the line that we never make the first step. Align your time and your energy to those priorities and continue to adjust as you grow. So, all those pieces come together in that fourth step of owning your own path. This is where it all comes together. Owning your own path means that you are taking active responsibility for building the career that reflects who you are. It goes beyond what others expect from you. It recognizes that no one can define a meaningful life for you. Only you can do that. So take the power and do it. It may require a pivot. It may require saying no to opportunities that look impressive but are misaligned. It may require trust in yourself more than you ever have and more fully than anyone can ever understand you. Owning your path is about making sure that your ambition is rooted in your authenticity. It requires taking the time to understand your own success and how that aligns with who you are. Those two things do not have to compete. They can go and enhance each other. As a matter of fact, some of the most sustainable careers that have skyrocketed that I've seen are people who align their version of success with their values and select careers that go along with it because it allows them to be motivated and to continue on the work each day. So when you know your values, strengthen your resilience, and move with intention, you are going to actively shape your life and your career. So as you leave here today, I want to invite you to ask yourself, are you approaching your career from fear and habit or from a place of values, resilience, and intention? Because career ownership is not this big dramatic choice. It is a series of intentional decisions that shape a life and a career that is meaningful, it's grounded, and it's true to you. So, thank you for spending this time with me. I want you to know that you are allowed to be able to build this life and this career that makes you successful, but is also grounded in who you are. If you'd like a partner in that journey, I'd love to connect with you. You can feel free to use the QR code to be able to scan and set up in a complimentary intro. Enjoy the rest of the summit.
Natasha, thank you so much for sharing such an honest and meaningful message with all of us today. I think one of the reasons that your message resonates so deeply is that So many people are trying to build success while also trying not to lose themselves in the process. And what I appreciate so much about your presence and your perspective is that reminder that our leadership doesn't have to come at the expense of our well being, our authenticity, our identity. So often people feel that pressure to constantly perform, to achieve, to fit into expectations that no longer align with who you are. But today's conversation reminded us that sustainable success, it's not just about doing more. It's about leading with greater intention, with alignment and self awareness. And I think that message is something that so many people need to hear today. So thank you again, Natasha, for sharing your voice, your insight, and your encouragement with our community. And for everyone joining us, be sure to scan the QR code on the screen. Connect with Natasha on LinkedIn, connect with her and continue to learn from her work and her message. And make sure again, if you have any questions for her, put her in the Q&A box. She will respond to you by email. Thank you again, Natasha, for coming here and speaking to us at the Stronger Together Summit.